All right, then. Here we go. So I got a lot of responses about doing the last match directing episode, so we'll just keep that going. So this is going to be part of the match directing series. This episode is going to be on paperless and live scoring. We've got the whole point of this series is to kind of get match directors to get together a little bit, maybe get on here in a live, and talk about the things that they do, the roles of their core staff, and then like the things that they do and what we can do to help the match. Whether it be you show up and help the scorers, or you show up to build stages, the things that make a match work. I'm going to try to bring on experts. Today I'm hoping to have Eugene on. And then I've also got a couple experienced people that have run stats before that are going to come on. And I do this live specifically because it gives the people watching a chance to ask a question or give their input. Like, I'm not the only guy with great ideas, or like, what I think are great ideas. You guys might have an idea too, and this gives us a chance to discuss it, why it may or may not work, and we'll get everybody involved on it. So I'm going to start pulling in some people. It looks like Eugene made it in, so we'll get him added here. Let's see who else I got going here. We got Tim. And we got one more. Let me see if he made it in. He has not made it in yet. All right, we'll capture him once he gets going. Hey! How's it going today?
Good.
All right, so tell us a little bit about you and your experience running scores.
I'm Tim Hitchak. I'm match director here for Quantico Shooting Club, and I'm the section coordinator. And then I've been the stats guy for Virginia State for 2 years, and I'll be the stats guy for Maryland State this year.
Okay, so you've gotten around. So this episode is going to be pretty specific. I don't want to like try to tackle too much in one shot because I'm only going to do this for an hour. I don't think my marriage can take more than that. Well, Eugene is unable to join, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know where the failure happened there. But so have you had a chance to run the live scoring at your match?
I have. So I usually run live scoring at all my matches. I have a Wi-Fi puck that I kind of stick in the center of the range. Luckily, all of my bays are very close. I turn on score logging and live scoring, and then it pushes the scores to the logging website. People see it on the Practiscore Competitor, and then usually update my scores at the end of the match pretty quickly.
Right, and that's a pretty important part of this is we've all gotten kind of used to the whole digital thing, and having it so like at a local match, you'll see people go ahead and they'll run paperless by just using the tablets, but they may not know that with close enough bays, you can do live scoring and actually have those backups sent to Practiscore. So when you're setting that match up, you say you use a Wi-Fi puck that's going to capture all of the tablets. What settings do you set up inside of Practiscore? Hey, you got the little one in the background.
Yeah, that's Conrad. He likes to hang out. So I actually have my tablet here.
I got mine too.
So basically, you set it up like any other match. You just need a live connection to the internet, and you need a Wi-Fi system that hits all your bays. And then you kind of scroll down when you go to check in the shooters. You go to shooter squads, and then you put on enable logging. You enable logging on the thing, and then also when you build the match, you turn on score logging on the match. So that's basically it.
So when you're using an iPad, and it looks like we're both using iPads right now. If you go into the match and you go to edit the match, or when you're first initially setting up the match, you turn on score logging, and then what you want to do there is, let's see, how do I describe this? So that will automatically, if the tablets are pulled and sync that match, that'll automatically take all of the scores every time you hit approve and send that blast out to Practiscore as long as you have it enabled and the tablets have got a Wi-Fi signal. Is that's how it works for you? That's why you set your puck up in the middle of the range.
Yes, yeah. So they go to the logging website, and then the logging website, as I understand it, sends the email to the competitors, and then Practiscore Competitor, if you have that, it actually pulls it pulls from that logging site to update Practiscore Competitor. You won't actually see the scores on Practiscore until an update is run. So the stats guy still has to hit post to Practiscore for the scores to actually show up on the Practiscore website, but otherwise you'll see them via the Practiscore Competitor app during the match.
Well, speaking of the Practiscore Competitor app, Eugene, welcome.
Hey.
We had a little technical problem there, but we got it figured out. Well, Eugene, now that you've joined the discussion, tell the people watching a little bit about you. More about you and what it is you do for Practiscore Competitor. I don't want to get into the weeds.
I don't really know where to start. Technically, I've been a volunteer on the whole Practiscore thing probably since 2011 or 12. I already lost track of it. Chuck Anderson of Area 1 at the time kind of referred me to Ken. We shot, I forgot what match was that, probably US IPSC Nationals or something like that in Florida, and traveling back together with him and Kyle Ferris, I think, sitting at the airport, chatting about various things. And yeah, like a few months after, Ken lost Android developer somehow, and well, I'm doing Android ever since for Practiscore.
Well, there you go.
And now I'm doing kind of more. I don't know if Ken will be happy if I talk about it. Yes.
Well, I don't want to get you. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble. This is
but I was kind of sort of staying away and wasn't involved into iOS side of things, and also not much on the web side of things in Practiscore. And you know, when people talk about Practiscore, oh, it's Practiscore.
Yeah.
But in reality, is many little things which are kind of interconnected together, and they provide various services to match directors, competitors, and other things. And somewhere around, I don't know, 2016, I realized that the data Practiscore has, it's a lot of data, but it's not always convenient to me as a competitor. And I'm Canadian, by the way, and I compete at national level in Canada. Lately, not as much as outside of the country, but I used to go to US and Europe to shoot matches. Again, but you know, when you look at the match results, what Practiscore website shows you, it's kind of traditional results. We've seen those, like, I don't know, even before Practiscore was created. I don't know, Bill, if you remember the reports that Easy Win Score.
Oh, yeah.
Created, and there have been software before that, and IPSC has software similar to that called WinMSS. So, like, it's a static PDF reports. You have to shuffle pages, like, you know, use marker or something, like do the calculations either in your head or somewhere else.
You got to have a little bit more knowledge on the scoring than we have to think about now.
Well, it's pretty annoying. Like, everything is static, and but again, like with all internet, Web 2.0, and modern websites, it's kind of ridiculous, right? And I just realized in 2016 that I already had all the bits and pieces in my hand that I could provide much better experience for viewing match results.
Right.
And not only viewing, but also playing around with them without interfering with the official match results, like what match director posted, what happens on the range. And in many cases, as you know, the way Practiscore allows you to post results as often as you want, but it's still a manual process because match director want to and probably not as much as match director, but stats team need to review them, make sure everything is correct, everything is in order, right people has the right data associated with them, stuff like that. The various tools allows match director to achieve that task, either verify them or push data sooner to competitors, like using score log, for example, provides more real-time notifications to competitors. But in many cases, whatever entered on a tablet, it's already done deal. Like how can you tell that something went wrong?
Right.
With that, right? So like you can only look at certain things like, or at least, when people been doing easy win score, like it's like a three-stage process, and error could be introduced at any stage.
Right.
In there. Like people recording data from targets to paper, mistake could be introduced. Somebody overheard wrong, or even recorded wrong, not what they've been told to.
Right.
Then the data entered from paper to computer, again, mistake could be made. You could mistype something or enter it to a wrong person, and so on. And that's why we used to have that verification hour. That's when everyone rushing in, checking the verification reports lists and comparing with what they have on their own hard copy. Like you remember those yellow copies.
Yeah.
And then the stats office gets constant thread of emails, messages, or lineup of people who want their scores to be right. So
luckily we don't have to do as much of that anymore. It's mostly just checking your scores. You get your emails, and if you got your emails, that is the score. As long as it's all activated correctly.
There is still a few places where the scores could be done wrong. For example, somebody enters someone else's score on your name, and vice versa.
Right. Those are usually like the user level errors that can be spotted.
Well, everything technically everything is user error. It's just on different stages, right?
But we've taken a bunch of different areas for errors and kind of moved it into just like two. It's going to be the person calling the score and the person entering the score, and those are the only two places left for the majority of the errors.
Well, there are still opportunities, like somebody, for example, set timer on a too sensitive or not enough sensitivity, and you get like 2 seconds for 15 second stage for someone, or vice versa. You get 50-second stage for someone like Max Michel, who ran it in 15. When stats office will validate that, they see that something like it's either on very bottom or on the very top, and it shouldn't be there.
Sure. Well, I kind of want to talk about the things that about setting it up and getting the people to realize how the back end might work on a high level. We don't have to get really down into the details.
And that's where I was going to. So basically, in 2016, I created a thing called Practiscore Competitor. It was personal project, really. If you look at the App Store listing, it has my name on it, not Ken's company name. The only association with Practiscore is actually I'm using Practiscore brand, and Kent like that, so it gets more visibility for me, and also Practiscore users get additional benefits of using that. And that's actually commercial app, like all the proceeds go to me directly, again from Ken's permission. And what Practiscore Competitor does, it allows competitors to grab much data, much results, and more from various sources. When we're talking about Practiscore integration, it's a posted match results, basically. And since probably 3-4 years ago, it also takes score logs. The score logs, it's an interesting beast. It actually was created kind of on a demand from USPSA for the purpose of enabling paperless scoring. Ken kind of hated paper at his match, and he used to run very large matches in Utah. There was, I think, 2 or 3 nationals in a row, like every year.
Oh yeah, and
What's happening?
It's an expense. It's a hassle. You got these little bits of paper flapping all over the range. You got to cut them up. So yeah, it's a hassle.
Plus, you still get things wrong and stuff, like especially when things get copied in the paper and stuff. So he wanted to go paperless, and he got into agreement with USPSA board or a president. I don't know exact arrangement at the time, but he got iOS developer to put together, I think probably in a few weeks, just to. Like you see it now, scores entered on a tablet. Tablet has internet connection. Just Wi-Fi is not enough, by the way. Like you have to have a solid internet connection at the stage, at the range.
Right.
And tablet pushes the data to Practiscore server. It's completely separate server, and that server notifies competitors over email about the scores that have been posted. There are some shortcuts in that area. For example, that's a score summary, not entire score. Like for example, you don't get per target breakdown.
Right. We'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, but what happens there is basically you get nearly real-time notification about the recorded scores, the scores that go on record into the match date. So when by the end of the day, stats office or match director posts the official results, the competitors will pretty much see the same thing, except when real match results posted, they will see the real per target breakdown. They will see data from Bluetooth connected timers and so on. Like all the edits. I don't think USPSA uses that stuff much, but there is also like range officer tracking supported in the app and stuff like that. So all of that goes into the match data, including all the edit history. Whether you see that or not. History cannot be deleted unless you're going to manually fiddling with a match export file or something like that. But again, let's not go there.
Right. So when, by the way, everybody meet Jason. Jason's in the dark there. The camera squished him up. He looked.
Oh my God! Let me turn the black filter off.
Your audio is very, very loud. Oh my goodness. It's even louder than Eugene's. He's been running Area 8 stats for the last couple of years, and just kind of wanted to bring him in as well as for his points of view. And you saw him post in the comments that what doesn't need internet is printers, and he's an advocate for the printers where I'm not.
That's
go ahead.
That's an interesting thing. I was actually advocating printers, and I was driving force to have the printers supported in Android app, and they've been there since, I don't know, like 2016 at least, right? So, and at the time, the reasonably cheap Bluetooth printers become available. I've been trying for a few years, and then just technology and market caught up. Like you can buy them off Amazon and get them easy. They work. They kind of crappy printers, but you buy them once, they work for a couple seasons, and you toss them away, replace with a new.
And then
they're pretty rugged.
Oh my God! You need to turn your audio sensitivity way down, man. You are blowing my eardrums out.
It's okay.
Oh, that's much better. Oof. Oof. So
we had no problems running these. Everyone told us they would not work. I know you hated them, but that was because you had a little something coming the next following year.
Your audio is back to ridiculous. I don't know if it's on auto sensing or what, but oh my God.
It might be. All right.
So they have worked for the past couple of years at Area 8, and I've seen them using it at Area 6 this year as well, the printers.
The problem is you have to make sure everyone has internet access. I think actually
Well,
You
that's the way score logging is going to work, right?
Correct. But
Yeah.
what about the competitor? They have to have access on the range to somehow get their scores to be able to review them.
Right. So that is a problem. That's one of the problems that I'm addressing when I go to matches. But in general, most ranges have at least a cellular signal. Even Shadowhawk had a much better signal this year than any place else I've been. And that's basically just for them to get the verification. The score logging is doing all of the backing up, and that lets them get their verification emails. So what we're talking about, guys, is when we have internet connection, and if you haven't been to one of these matches, when you hit approve, that doesn't just approve your scores and save it in the tablet. It saves all the data about that score when you hit approve and when the score was taken. And then it also, when you got an internet connection, like Eugene was saying, it pushes it to that server. Now, Eugene, from that server, that's where we get our emails. It's not sent from the tablets, right?
Yep.
Right. So, and now explain so you get the emails, and we've been talking about Practiscore Competitor because one of the this is not just about paperless scoring, but it's also about live scoring. So the live scoring side is you get, if you've got Practiscore Competitor, which you should have, when you go into that app and you refresh it after you shot the stage, you'll actually see your score come up. Now, Eugene, I've seen that be a hit or miss thing. That is not always copied, like, because it's reading the emails. Is that correct? It's parsing out the emails and not actually like part of the score logging system?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by hit and miss. First of all, even though tablet has internet connection, there is still some latency. Like not exactly. Like you probably could see that when you watch USPSA live streaming, they have some delay in their streaming, first of all, and the scores appearing on score log sites with some kind of random intervals. Plus, a range officer have to hit approve. So even they finish at scoring, they might run after the competitor who shot that stage, trying to chase him and show him the screen to approve, because somebody has to tap that approve button, right? And competitor have to agree. Like if you read the NRI blog, they actually saying, well, the competitor have to tap it by approve it by tapping the approve button. So they agree with they confirming they saw the score, they don't have objections to that and stuff. So that might still take another minute for a range officer to catch up with the competitor, find him, get the thing approved, or give up chasing and approve it anyway.
Sure.
After that, tablet will try its thing to get the score posted. And again, depending how good the internet connection is, it might take several retries. It might go from one pass, it might take several retries.
Oh, okay. So the way
and after that, they will go live, and you can actually see them on the score log website. It has entry for each match, and inside of that each match, you can also see the chronological order how they posted, like not broken down by competitor or stage, just as they posted.
So when it comes to Practiscore Competitor itself, when you get that update that is from the score logging emails, right? When Practiscore is using that, or competitors using
kind of what score log website is essentially a pile of those score log emails put together on a server. It's a sort of database with those emails, and pretty much in a textual format, right? So like,
I got you.
Nearly the same as we see in email. That's what is being stored on that score log website.
Right.
Now,
so that much I understand. Hold on, Eugene. Hold on. You're getting carried away. I know you're very excited. Maybe you don't get out in public very much. I don't know. I've tried some coding. I'm not very good at it. The Practiscore side, competitor side, when it's looking at the score logging, the emails to pull the scores over there, even if you're using a timer like the Commander timers that can save the splits to the score log or to the tablets, that's not being posted to Practiscore Competitor. That's not being sent to the score logs, correct?
Well, at the time ScoreLog was created, those timers didn't exist, and there's just simply no place to put that data into the emails that ScoreLog system processes.
Sure.
Right?
So,
But basically, you know what happened between 2016 and I don't know 18-ish. I was working on pulling data from various sources, and I don't know, like was probably closing up to over 10 now, that different websites where Practiscore Competitor could load much data from, including various verification reports, which obviously doesn't have like overall
Sure.
ranking, but they have individual scores for each competitors for state. So I just
We're
realized that at the time that
Hold on, Eugene. Hold on, buddy. Hold on.
ScoreLog is.
But hold up, we're trying to keep the conversation about what we're doing now. We don't really need to get too far into the weeds. We're going like way back. We've already talked about easy win score. We don't need to go back any further than that. I'm trying to. So we're talking about where was I? We were talking about it not posting the splits, which is cool. We don't need that for our verification of scores, so that's not really a problem. But what people are not seeing is when you do log into Practiscore Competitor and you pull your scores mid-match, you're not going to see that. So Tim, have you noticed when that actually happens, when you actually end up with your splits?
I think it's just when they actually get posted. So at the match, you can either post it at the end or you can just continually post it. So like for a local, I'll just post it as soon as the last squad's done, sync the scores, post everything. Or at a major, I'll usually post every about half hour or so. I'll update the scores as long as I have a good signal. So it just depends how quickly the match director, the stats guy's posting them.
Right. So, I mean, that's not necessary for us to do the live scoring or the paperless scoring, or even if you're running a match like Area 8 or Area 6 where you've got those capabilities in place and you're using actual printers to run another backup. And that's what you're a big advocate of, right, Jason? Oh, you muted.
I know. I like them because you have it right there in your hand.
Sure.
You don't have access to your email. But yeah, I'm typically posting as soon as, typically at least after every rotation, everything's getting posted. So they have the competitor app. They can see all those splits and everything now. But yeah, I like the paper.
So if they're syncing up so when you're running a match as stats, you're syncing up about every 45 minutes or so when a squad finishes up a stage. If they look after that, then they will actually get to see their splits as well.
Correct.
Okay.
When we have your Wi-Fi, I'm syncing up, probably that half hour, 45 minutes. When we didn't have the Wi-Fi there, I just had a router in my pocket, and I just walked around, and each tablet would sync up automatically, and then I just would sync to the master. And yeah, that was about 45-minute walk around.
Now, did you realize when you were doing that was actually a benefit to the shooter to get more data about their shooting, or were you doing that just to do a double down on getting the information off of the scoring tablets?
I like to get it off the tablets, just in case anything happens on that tablet. At least I know I have up to a certain point on there.
Sure, like people throwing my tablets in coolers once in a while.
That's fine, as long as there's no water in there.
By the way, Bill, have you seen the USPSA's own requirements for paperless scoring? Like they actually have
yes.
Several stage document what match director have to comply with in order the paperless to be enabled for the match, especially especially for the majors, right? So
right.
Essentially, what they want from you is several levels of backup.
Right.
And,
so Jason, you look like you had more information on that.
Now, Area 8 2021 was the very first major match that actually asked permission for the paperless scoring. It's actually in the rules that you have to request it on there and get the.
Hey, that's not. No. Hold on. That's not true, because when I ran Area 8, I sent a request, but mine went right to the president, and from there, that information didn't get disseminated anywhere. He was like, "Oh, just yeah, sure, as long as you're doing the backups."
Well, technically, the first one was in Utah somewhere in 2014-ish, I think, or maybe 15.
Eugene's like, I had it first. None of y'all did.
It wasn't me, by the way. I'm in Canada. Utah is like other side of the continent from here.
So, let's see. So, Tim, have you run into any? Let's see. There's a feature. Are you using Android or are you using Apple for the scoring tablets?
So I use the Androids for for all the scoring tablets on the stages, and then I use a iPad for the master tablet.
Right, and that's really common. There's I don't want to say substantial, but there are differences between the two apps that allow you to do different things. So like enabling the score logging on the Android and then sending it over to the iPads, you may have an issue where you've actually lost the emails option. So that's one of the features that's in there is when you build the match and you enable score logging, as you register competitors, it'll automatically enable them to be to get the email when the score logs post. But if it can happen where I've seen it happen at other matches where transferring between the two softwares, you actually end up disabling the emails for the shooters, but score logging is still enabled. So the logs still go to Practiscore, which is awesome, but the shooters don't get their email, which is boo. Have you run into that at all?
I did. I think it was 2020 Virginia State. I had an Android as the master tablet, and that happened. I had to go around and turn them all on, and then
Right.
and then I ran an iPad the last year with your iPads, and it worked fine. And then if I run an iPad as the master, and then the Androids as the stage tablets, it transfers over of enabling the score logging.
Right. Apple to Android seems to work fine. Android to Apple, as Android being the master, seems to cause problems. We ran into that a little bit this year at Area 8, right, Jason?
They used Kindle Fires as their master, and I went to kill him. But that's what he gave us. I left our box of tablets at home, didn't bring anything, and said we're just going to go with, because they're like, we're providing everything, and I was an employee. So,
right.
Yeah, we found that out. You normally have to set it up in two spots. You have to turn it on under the match and then go under the shooters and enable the logging. That's on the iPads. And that's what checks the box to send the email on there.
Right, and there one of the easy fixes for that, if you realize the emails aren't going out, you don't have to go into each shooter and check the box. You can disable, then re-enable, and it just checks the box for everybody. Is that what you ran into, Tim? You're nodding your head like, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, totally. Because that's way easier. Going through even 40 shooters to try to check all them, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, on the iPad, yeah, you just hit one button and it just enables everyone.
So Eugene, as that side, do you have any experience with that, or is that not something that you dip into because you're working with a competitor? I'm not trying to.
That has nothing to do with competitor, really.
Okay.
It sounds like, and again, guys, if you hit issues like that, there is a support email.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. They're aware.
Well, I'm not worried. It's you're suffering from some issues, and again, those issues won't be fixed as if they are not reported.
It's not suffering, really. It's just understanding the features.
Okay, you're enjoying it, right?
I'm enjoying the pain.
Yeah. The thing is, again, it's two separate apps.
Sure.
Created by several people, different people.
Yeah.
In some cases,
it's such an easy fix. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like Practiscore Competitor crashing on you every other time you open it.
That's because you're using iOS version. Android is much better app, actually.
It's just a feature, man. Don't worry about it.
Actually, I'm doing something about it, and I'm doing something about the problem you're describing. I just described it, and like I said, there are two different apps developed by different people. Sometimes because things done in a rush, like I said, score logging was done in like 2 weeks, and then on Android it took me quite a few years to catch up with that because the platform itself didn't support that. Didn't support feature. I need to solidly implement that functionality I couldn't do it on existing platform. Only when we deprecated a whole bunch of old Android tablets, like Nux, for example, we could provide score logging on Android.
Sure.
But the thing is, really, all it's needed is competitors have to have emails registered in the app, and score logging need to be enabled. That's all it's needed for Android to push score logs.
Sure.
I'm not sure, but it sounds like iOS app has an extra checkbox somewhere to enable or disable score logging for individual shooters, and that's why you have discrepancies between two apps doing that. Somebody forgot to tell me about it.
It's okay.
including you guys not reporting issues to support channel.
I just emailed you the other day.
Did you get a response?
I report
yeah, I
them.
did, actually.
Here you go. You see, emailing support works, and that's important. And that's an important statement to make, like to everyone listening here. You guys, if you don't report some issues, you can hope someone else did it for you, and it will be fixed eventually. But you might be the only guy who's suffering from that issue.
That's actually
the sooner you report the issue, the sooner it will get fixed.
That's actually
or we do something
Eugene,
about it.
You gotta stop talking at some point. What I'm trying to say is that's one of the things that Practiscore has done like amazingly, and you yourself. And it's when we send in an email, especially for at a major match, it might only, we're like, oh, we're not going to hear from these guys this weekend. You guys always get right back to us. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you guys are shooters. You guys aren't just app developers. You're shooters. You enjoy the sport. So you're probably on the range answering an email, right? Sometimes, right? Like, all right.
I've gotten replies within like an hour or so, sometimes under, while I'm at a major, and I don't even tag it that I'm at a major or anything.
Yeah. So we really do appreciate when you guys get back to us. As match directors, as the stats guys, we really appreciate when you guys reach back out to us. All of the problems that I've brought up have always been like, it's been known, check, uncheck, you guys set it up wrong. Why do you have password enabled? You don't really need that to do this. And, things like that. And we're like, oh, okay, sorry, my bad. I'll fix that next time.
I would disagree about passwords, but okay.
Well,
we're thinking about putting more passwords on them. Maybe an easy password, but just something to slow them down from being smarter than they really are.
Yeah. Where was I going next? So we were talking about the Wi-Fi setups. So now, Eugene, we already talked about having a hotspot centrally located. Myself, when I come to a match as a sponsor, I'm bringing an entire mesh network, and I set up, access points all throughout the range. What have you seen out there people using as far as getting their tablets to have an internet connection?
Well, everyone does their own network magic. Like if you have a local network guy who has experience with setting up wireless stuff, that would be your point of contact. Ken or DJ, they had some past experience with the ranges, but again, somebody probably should put a cookbook of some sort for a range to set up range Wi-Fi network. And ideally, if range is doing regular matches or like planning to do major matches, they probably should get not guest Wi-Fi network, how I would call it, but have it set up their own network which covers their entire range landscape.
Right.
So you wouldn't have to fiddle with your gear like last minute before the match and make sure everything is covered. But the important part to make, like, it's not only that, not only Wi-Fi routers, you need internet connection for the whole thing.
Right. So just having a Wi-Fi network where you can connect to it and pull the scores to a central tablet, that's kind of how we started doing it. But as long as we have an internet connection, now we're actually posting score logging.
Yeah. Interestingly, we get this question and every other week probably. Okay, I have a Wi-Fi. can I sync my scores to a master and then push score logs from the master when the master gets internet connection when I get back to my hotel after the match? No, it doesn't work that way.
Right. Then if you're doing
actually, on Android, it kind of does work, but it's going to take you 4 or 5 hours to push those score logs out, which kind of moot point by then.
Yeah, what's the point? So now, for the US PSA rule set, you have to have, or what they are requiring you to do is have backups of the tablets, have a master, a backup of the master, to have score logging enabled, so the scores are going out to the internet. So
actually, they don't state that you have to have score logging enabled. They have telling you have to have 3 or 4 layers of backup, and there is different ways to achieve those layers. And few people forget like 1 or 2 layers which have always been available to them, and they've been disregarded or ignoring those backup options, and trying to fall to score logging, which kind of provides best and sort of worst experience at the same time.
Are you talking about like exporting to your email as a backup instead of just using the backup button on there?
On Android tablets, there is also you can enable local backup, which will go into SD card, which in removable SD card, it's a text file. You can re-enter or review anywhere else. Even if tablet gets physically destroyed and card survives, you can recover those scores. Now, plus, you can also set up a secondary tablet on every stage and do a local sync to that tablet as another option. I think that's mentioned in the USPSA requirements. Sorry, Bill.
No, it's okay. So we see a lot of matches, a lot of stats guys are using the apples as, and we discussed it a minute ago, we're using the apples as the master and then syncing them to the Androids. I didn't realize that about the SD cards, that you can have the SD cards and send them to that SD card as a local backup. What do you think about that? I mean, we're using the Apple mainly because we get a lot more detail or we feel like we're getting an easier experience managing the match. And then the Androids are doing a good job and are less expensive to put in the RO's hands. So do you think that's a good way of doing it, or do you recommend like straight Android?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy. Really, I'm an Android developer. Like, what would you expect from me?
What is it like asking Jason whether or not I should use printers?
I like having both to manage the match. I'll back up to an Android, and I'll typically walk around with that Android. If anyone has questions, what's your name? I pick your name, what stage? And it's just you hit the 3 little dots, pick their stage, and you can fix it right there a lot faster and easier than you can on the iOS. But the reports and everything are much nicer on iOS.
Yeah.
Well, you should tell us more details about that, like which reports are you missing in Android? And there are multiple reasons for that, because you might be missing your reports on iOS if you don't tell us about them now.
Yeah,
sure.
In the near future. So please email support.
The match status report, where you can go by, track each shooter, track the total time for each shooter per stage, realize who's taken forever on a stage, where the backups are, where the bottlenecks are. So that's probably
there is similar functionality on Android as well. Android has similar to that. It's placed a little bit different in different spots to access that. But honestly, I've run several level 3 IPSC matches with probably 250, 300 competitors on my phone.
Sure.
Like as a master. There are some functionality which is unique to Android. There are some functionality which is unique to iOS. As Ken was always saying, well, get both, and you can benefit from them.
It is nice because the features that we have, especially because I'm running a postal match, is like merging some matches where they might have messed a stage up in the tablet. It won't automatically import things like that. So, so one of the features for the running the match and doing the score logging and paperless backups, one of the things that you can do in Apple, I mean, one of the features of Apple's is the batteries suck, so you got to do it something like this, but you can enable that, like, say after 3 scores. So say the tablet lost its internet connection, you don't realize it is RO. Once you hit a third shooter, you can set it up so that actually alerts the RO that they need to start copying those scores to paper. Is that a feature of Android? Because I didn't see that when we had Androids available.
On Android, it's done slightly different, and the whole thing is sort of handled. I'm gonna say something ridiculous. It's outside of Android app, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The score logs are pushed to special subsystem on Android, and then it does its thing in background based on various conditions, like internet being available, battery is good, tablet is turned on, stuff like that. And what I had to, because it's out of control of the app when score logs are pushed out. So all I could do for Android is show range officer at the top of the screen on a squad list how many pending score logs out there.
Okay. Now, how is that enabled?
You don't need to enable it. It's like
okay, so
if you see that red bar with score logs not being pushed, you have a problem. If
do you
the
get
number,
a red bar on a Kindle?
Well, you
Fire
got
there,
to.
Jason?
I don't know if the Kindle Fire gets it. You have to train your ROs to know what that means. I've walked out and seen them like 10 there, like 10 unsent scores. And they're like, yeah, I've been getting this error every time I'm entering scores, and I just hit resend, and it pushes everything out.
Right, and that's one.
Well, actually, you can't resend them. It's just.
No, they've never been sent, so they're just like sitting there in a queue.
It's just because no Wi-Fi connection on a tablet, most likely.
Right, but that's one of the important things. Is we're just trying to get people aware that if you're paying attention to this and you're enabling things. One of the features of the apps, both of them, is that you enable the security, and then on Android you don't have to do anything. As long as you got score logging enabled, it'll tell you at the top if you've got unsent score logs, which means those backups that you're supposed to be doing really aren't happening. And then unless you've got them to the local backups, right, Eugene? The local backups happen regardless.
And you can see that at stats. So when you go to the sync tablets, it gives you a time on each tablet from when you last actually saw that tablet as the master. So like if all of a sudden, so there's 2 things that are happening. Either they're between squads, they set their tablet down and they turn it off, so it's no longer on Practiscore, and once they get out of the app, you can't sync it anymore, or they're dropping off the network. So if it's like you haven't seen them for half an hour on the network, it's kind of an alert to go down there and check on them, see what's going on.
Right.
You can also monitor their battery status, so when they're getting down to like 20%, you can yell at them over the radio or whatever you need to do. So tell them to turn the battery on.
That's screen an interesting point. You might need to refresh or do a scan of your fleet of tablets on that screen. I'm not sure if iOS app does it automatically. I don't think so. It will rescan the previously seen tablets. That will be quick. And Android does the same thing. Like you basically get, but again, you sold 20% battery an hour ago. If you don't rescan, you're still gonna see that 20%.
Yeah, it doesn't work well between iOS. It's one of those things where you need to be on the same platform. But say iOS is you hit scan all, and it'll tell you where everything's at. You can pull the scores and then see battery status, and then if anyone's off the network.
You have the same thing on Android too. I'm just saying, like you have to rescan your tablets from that sync screen.
Yep.
Right. So what I want to point out to people is that when you're using the iOS, it's not happening. It won't happen automatically. The default setting when you turn score logging on for the one directly under it is called unsecured scores warn count, and it's always set to 999 as dead default. Well, I haven't been to a match with 1,000 shooters to have this problem, right? So what it is if you don't set that to a realistic number, say 3 shooters, 2 shooters, 1 shooter, even if you want to get it, and you're using iOS to iOS, the iOS scoring tablet won't actually warn the staff that the result has not been sent up. Once you do enable that and you do change it to a realistic number, you've ran into this where they were like, oh, I was getting this warning and I don't know what it means, but the warning says something like, hey, we're not, the score log didn't put these scores information on paper. Is that what you've seen at area of where we DalMarVa, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't have that issue at DalMarVa. The first time was we weren't getting the emails, and that was the whole issue of the Kindle not pushing, enabling the email on all the scoring tablets, and that's when we just put it to iOS, turned it on, synced to that, and that way just mass turned everyone on without having to go through each one individually.
Right.
But we didn't have to turn on. The internet was actually pretty good. Our master couldn't see everything, but the tablets always were able to eventually get internet, and we're posting the score logs, so we were watching on the website the score logging.
Right. And then so like there's different solutions for that, and as long as you could run paperless without running live. But one of the benefits of running live is as a competitor, you get to actually see what your standings are, whether you've got to push a little harder on the next stage, whether you need to throw a couple extra misses into that hardcover because you hate yourself. I don't know. But it lets you see where you're at and how much you can push. And that's one of the main benefits for the live scoring part. The paperless backup is just amazing. I love it. I love not having to write things down or call the shooter over for more than one reason.
By the way, you guys have, any of you have a military background?
Yeah.
By the way, here you go. You should be familiar with drills, right? Like any kind of drills. Like if you need to prepare your soldiers, you run drills. Make sure they do perform the task you will want them to do under stress, right? So like that's
right.
a familiar thing. No one really does that in a tech-related stuff. Like for example, think about cases when things go wrong at the range, how you recover from them. But that's why those backups are being made. But, in order to have those backups actually beneficial to you, you need to do a stress test. Make sure that during the match you will be able to recover from those backups.
Sure.
That needs to be rehearsed at some point. Like think about it. Like you need to practice how you're going to be recovering from backups when things go wrong.
Right. Well,
for example, you have.
Hold on, Eugene. Oh, there we go. All right. So you're going to say the same thing a third time. You're going to kill me, bro. I got a question here, and the question is it safer to push from the RO tablet to the master, or is it okay to pull just via the master? Now, I don't know about you guys, but my preference is always to pull from the master. That way I can see if there's been a change, like somebody added a shooter to the match, and I can go down there and slap some people around, or whatnot. Is that how you guys generally will run a major match?
Yeah, I never. It's always pulling to the master.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's the easiest way as a stats guy to control the input of the scores into the master and make sure you're capturing everything correctly.
I don't think most of the ROs would even know how to do it. So.
No, and that's
they do. They do. Trust me on that. But guys, it's always been recommended for scoring tablets, only pull data from the master, never do cross, and for the master, pull only from those score. So it should be one-way sync. Even further, if you can, never sync scores to your scoring tablet.
To the scoring tablets, right? That's a great point.
Don't pull scores from master to scoring tablets.
Right. Ideally, you don't send
Android app actually does that when you unlock any of the stages to a tablet. It's gonna disable pulling scores completely.
Well, this is a comment more along like a way to keep errors from being injected and how to keep chuckleheads out, right? So first off, I never at a major match should you see people sending the squad around with a tablet. And that's not because we can't trust the squad, but there may be a shooter in there, and if they can see where they're at placing in the match and they're walking a tablet between stages, some jackassery can happen. So the tablet should stay with the stage. It's easier for the scorekeep, for the stats guy. It's easier for them. And then you also have what you're talking about is, and I guess this might be a better answer to his question is when you are pulling from the master the registration information, you don't want to pull any new scores to that tablet for the same reason, right? Like I don't want a tablet that's got all the scores the entire match and some stupid shit can happen there and mess the rest of the match up.
Well, technically, no. Like it's gonna work fine, but there are deeper reasons for not doing that. When things
No. I agree that the
go,
technology will function correctly. What I'm saying is it'll keep the chuckleheads from getting in there and messing it up.
that too, but there are different reasons. Like if things go wrong, somebody messed up on a fundamental level, like for example, flipped stages or scored two different squad on actually physically two different stages on the same stage on different tablets. You get kind of doubled up scores. Somebody would have to untangle that. It would be much easier to deal with that when tablets are not cross-synced.
Now we had an incident at DalMarVa where we had to manually input some scores.
That's what I emailed them on. Because someone brings only 12 tablets to a 13 stage, and DalMarVa Shadowhawk has a couple bays that get very hot. And what happened was, as I'm just joking about the number of tablets.
I was going to say, I brought 15 tablets. Okay, go ahead.
But we didn't have enough to swap every single bay out. So what happened was we had to keep swapping one or two bays with tablets and bring some in to the trailer, let them cool, and then that same tablet's going back out to a different stage. Mm-hmm. And what we found happened, and I actually, after Eugene responded to my email and told me kind of what may be happening, I was able to look at the scores in the edits and see that the zeros that overwrote the original score was from a different tablet. And that just meant someone went into that person's score, maybe just looked at it, said, oh, this isn't my shooter, and it zeroed out. And then that new score pulled over and overwrote that same competitor's original score.
Usually they also fat fingering something in either targets or time field, and then exiting it creates entry on iPad anyway.
All right.
But,
well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we had a lot of those happen this year, and we couldn't figure it out until I realized we were swapping so many tablets because we had like one or two stages where they're just leaving them out in the sun and they overheat, which Androids don't do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The problem is when I bought the iPads, I couldn't get an answer whether or not I could do the right thing on Android. So that was my fault. I'll buy Android. I just got to figure out how to sell these iPads. Anybody want to buy some iPads? They got really nice battery backup. I'll keep the battery backups. But anyway, well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on. We only got a couple minutes left. Was there any part of this topic about paperless scoring or the live scoring that we didn't tackle that you guys wanted to talk about?
I think one thing, it works really well for USPSA, but if you run any other sports for scoring, I think that Android works better. So I run a precision rifle match and a gas gun match, and I've had issues with the precision rifle match pulling scores from the Android to the iOS, and it says they're synced, and then scores disappear, and then you have to go back. So I run Android only I'll do the registration on an iPad, and then when I collect scores, I have a different one that I pull all the scores and the registrations to. I change what the master is by the end of the match to pull all the scores. But yeah. Outside of USPSA, everything works really well. But once you get to some other scoring formats, I've seen issues.
We hoping to address that in upcoming months.
Cool.
There might be big changes coming. Some of them you might like, some of them you might not like.
Oh, for crying out loud, Eugene. I run around with these tablets to 14 matches this year to set up their Wi-Fi and stuff. So I'm experiencing, I get to experience all of this stuff.
Your Wi-Fi not going anywhere. It's going to stay with you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but as he says that, we typically like to stop updating a month or two before the matches. Unless an update is addressing a specific issue we're seeing, we'll run 1 or 2 local matches, make sure everything's working, and then take that same version to the major. That way we know
Yeah.
everything's
Stop
working
updating.
properly.
We've got a known working model.
That's a good idea, and you can also kind of scale it down a little bit instead of doing local matches. And if you feel like you need to update week before major, do a toy match, just imaginary, and enter the
All right,
scores
guys.
at home and something.
We've got 5 seconds left. I just want to thank everybody for coming on and having this discussion.